Good morning, this is Robin Richardson, or evening or afternoon or whenever you're listening to this. Time is irrelevant in the podcast sphere. I'm going to start off this episode with a dream. We were talking about the two paths, the two potential paths of Earth, and kind of binary thinking. I'll start with actually how important that binary thinking has been to me, and this has come up for me quite a bit. I like to sometimes, if I'm standing at the precipice of a certain decision, and we do this mental math in making a decision. Well, will this serve me? Will it hurt others? Is this a good idea? Will this deplete my resources? Will I enjoy this? And I've learned to simplify it to, is it serving the old earth path or the new earth path? The left-hand path or the right-hand path? Which road is it getting me further along? And this can be very useful because even if it's, you can have, 10 reasons not to do the thing and one reason to do it. But if the one reason to do it is it's a step on the path that I want to walk on, you do it. And this way you know where you're headed and you're always headed in the right direction. And you can sort of see an illustration of these two paths in your head. I can almost see a meme. And the one path might be paved in gold, and it might be pleasant and it might be easy to walk. And I think a lot of the people at the helm of the earth right now are walking golden, easy paths. It's abundant, it's self-serving, it's wonderful, but they're walking towards the end of the world. And so it's like looking at the end game. And you choose what that end game is. Maybe to you it's not old earth, new earth. Maybe it's, I'm going to be doing an episode on the near-death experience. It's the life review. Like, what do you want to discover you've been like in your life review when you die, and you sort of get to look it over and go, what's the impact you left? So, or whatever your goal is. I think that kind of, which path is this putting me on, is a very important way to see things. And you waste so much less time. You're like, I'm not going to enter this 3-year relationship that will be nice, but not conducive necessarily to the path. So, that's not 100%. There's lots of nuance that you can bring in as to why certain divergences are important, divergences on the path. But it's just one helpful way of thinking, especially if you're trying to make a certain kind of decision. But anyways, I digress. I'm going to share a dream with you that's going to really help illustrate the state of the world and the underlying energetic state of the world in this split. And it's a really, I have a lot of dreams. I'm just going to go ahead and say that they're very prophetic in that they tap into the collective unconscious and the stream of where things are going. So this dream, stay tuned. It is so cool. I had it around 2021, shortly after my awakening, quote unquote. And so in the dream, I was working as a waitress, and which I did all through my 20s. And there was news. I was like working at this diner, and there was news that this woman had died. And the woman was a very important figure in the world, a very good, important figure in the world. And I received word, more or less, or I came to understand in the dream that I was her heir. Not that I was going to inherit her money, but that I was going to inherit her mission. I was the next in line to be that woman. And my boss, who, if you know my story, you might know who that boss was, more or less. But imagine the bossiest boss man in the world. Not Donald Trump, but another one. And he's my boss at this diner. I realize in this moment that this woman dies, I'm her heir, and my boss has been keeping me as this waitress because he knows that I'm the heir of this woman. And he's not just a restaurateur. He is actually the man in charge of the world. It's like those two, the man and the woman, were in charge of the world in opposing forces. She was the new earth custodian, and he was the old earth parasite, the mogul of capitalism. And he has been playing this role of my boss as a waitress to make sure that when the time came, I could not step into my inheritance. This is really important. And this foreshadowed the episode that I would have later, the war that I would go into later. It was verbatim what I experienced. So what I realized he was going to do was keep me working my ass off for nothing, barely surviving, and also had this image of him just covering me in plastic crap. And I realized right then, and that plastic would stop my powers, and it would stop the beacon from going out that would help people recognize who I was. And when I say I, the story is all about me, I want to bring you in, dear listener. If you are in any way a custodian of the new earth, if you are in any way somebody with this calling, this is a dream about you. You are the heir in this situation. And the current structures of people as commodities, as people as workhorses, that is your version of being specifically kept in an incapacitated state so that you can't step into your role. So this is where it becomes really important to understand making those big choices. Like, do I stay in the job that's keeping me barely paying my rent and barely scraping by? And don't make it like Robin told me to leave my job. I'm just presenting really important binaries. Because I do believe that the capitalist structure of you have to contribute, you're contributing to just more pollution, more garbage, more crap. Do we need more content? Do we need more crap? Or do we need more people coming into consciousness and healing? I mean, I vote the latter, but if you are a big fan of working to live, go for it, But, so in this dream, back to this dream, us custodians, I realized I had to escape him. And I started to run, and when I started to run, I realized that I didn't run, I slowly, stealthily left the building. And I realized that everyone in the restaurant was in on it. Everyone that worked there was in on keeping me subdued, and that's why they had been sort of cruel to me, or not cruel to me, but gave me a sense that I wasn't worth much and devalued me. And again, if you talk to people through my content, I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years. I hear from a lot of people who have identical experiences to me because we are the heirs of the custodianship of Earth. And there is a force out there that really benefits from pillaging the Earth. And they preemptively make sure that they make it impossible for us to reach, to claim our inheritance, or they try to. So that's what this dream is about. And I ended up escaping. I went and hid out, and I found my way out. And I emerged into this place where I was in this house with a bunch of women. And instead of waitressing, it's like, you have to pay for the food, I'm going to deliver the food, you're going to give me a $3 tip. I mean, we were outside having a picnic, and it was just free food, and we were all contributing, and we were all enjoying. And then there was a room inside the house with no furniture, a dark room, and I knew suddenly that I had a daughter in there. And I walked into the room, and the daughter, she was like all of 1 year old, and she was on the floor, and she had no fingers and no toes, and she was very ugly. And I picked her up, and I remember thinking, back in that capitalism mindset, thinking, what's she gonna do? She's useless, right, to the world. In the world that values your labor and your beauty, what you can do for them. I thought, how will she get by? And then I held her, and I felt more wisdom and more love than I'd ever felt in anything in the world, and I realized that her value was intrinsic. It was intrinsic. And that's the crux of this thing. And that's the thinking. Because it's not going to be enough just to hone the land and be open-hearted. I think to really come into the understanding that humans are intrinsically valuable, this is the step in the right direction. When I have visions of my walkable villages, the first people I want to populate it with are the homeless people, or unhoused. And it's not... And what I want to do is that you don't have to do anything. Get students to maintain the grounds and cook the food, and say, I think that the world says you can't have a house because you can't contribute. And I want to say, contribute to what? I mean, again, I just, it's unconscionable to me, the way things are set up in the world. And I think of the biblical beatitude, the meek shall inherit the earth. And I think of Bob Dylan, the times they are changing, those who were last will later come first. Everything is upside down. And I'll give you another binary. It's the parasitic and the self-generating. And I'm going to talk about the unhoused, and I'm going to talk about the displaced as a really important pivot point in all of this. But bear with me. I'm jumping around, but it's all really important. The people at the top of the world right now, and we're starting to, the crack is forming. I mean, we look at celebrities now, and we're starting to see this, like, why do I care that you're rich and beautiful? In fact, I'm quite annoyed by it, because we're trying to get on with our lives, and you keep flashing on my screen like I'm supposed to care about your marriage or your whatever. But those people at the top right now are actually at the bottom, with the appearance of being at the top. And they're only at the top in a parasitic way. They're not self-generating energy. They are feeding off the energy of the masses. And concerts are a really obvious example of this. Large pop concerts are energy harvesting. And these people are fueled by the attention, and fueled by the labor, and fueled by the controversy, and fueled by the way that they are able to have the rest of humanity. These people at the top can say something and influence the entire collective field. And they're doing it on purpose. They don't have the love that generates energy. So they consume the energy of other people. And we can go really metaphysical about this and talk about the demiurge, the creation of the physical reality, the archons that are harvesting this energy. And so the capitalistic systems that thrive on saying you need to commute to work, you need to listen to your boss, you need to be a good little puppy dog, and keep your head down and contribute to me. That's parasitic. They're feeding, and the tragedy for them is that it becomes a black hole situation. Once you consume everything, that's it. You die. So that's why the old earth can't sustain. A parasitic system has a limited lifespan, because once you eat every other person in the room, you starve to death, because you depend on eating them to live. And the demiurge, the creation of the physical system, this world is built on eating others and consuming others. Whereas the self-generating, and we can look at, I really come to the mythology of Sophia and the demiurge. Sophia created the underlying structures, the spirit, and the demiurge came and created the physical, which was in his image, which is quite brutal, to kill and maim and consume. And the New Earth idea, and I can get into that mythology later if you're interested. It's really relevant here, but this is so important. It all comes together, you see, in this split. The New Earth is to turn away from the physical demiurge, archon, capitalist, consumptive, and I think as well as and entropy, the entropy of the physical. To transcend that towards the self-generating future of we are our own power source. I don't need you. I don't need to consume your energy in order to sustain myself. I sustain myself, and when I love you, that amplifies my love and your love. So it's exponentially amplifying, and the trajectory of the new earth is towards non-physical. So entropy becomes irrelevant because it's not physically manifested energy. It's self-generating and it's non-physical. It's it's increasingly the body becomes lighter, existence becomes more crystalline, and eventually becomes more of a dream, more of a pure consciousness state. That's the really far, far, far away projection for the New Earth evolution. And this is my read. This is what I see. And I had a thought I was going to follow through to that, and then a train went by, and I lost it. Oh, no. Well, that's okay. That's okay. Let me talk about the unhoused thing, because at the end of my war that I went through, I was on the street, and I was right there because I was all of 85 pounds with matted hair, talking to myself and stinking. So I remember walking myself at the very end of my hell experience, if you know it, just as the voices were finally subsiding after 9 months. And I will say, so this experience, which I'll get into later, my hell experience was a direct result of that man from the dream. The forces that benefit from this world's suffering, they take people like me, we're called targeted individuals. They take people like me who are working towards New Earth, and they target them for elimination. And then they find ways to remotely drive them crazy or eliminate them. I think that these people that target, I don't think that they're human. I think it's in the astral realm. I think it's the kind of, Stranger Things, and there's like the upside down world. It's the upside down world version of these people. So they can't directly come up and shoot you in the head with a gun, but they can manipulate you to shoot yourself from inside. And that's what they were doing with me. Not that particularly, they couldn't manipulate me in that way, but they had cunning ways to drive me to near extinction. And so that was the war I was in. It was the war for them to eliminate me. And as I was so I walked myself to the hospital because my feet were, from all the walking and not sleeping, and my foot had previously been broken in this war. I was sitting in the hospital, and I read this exquisite epiphany. Behind me, I was in a wheelchair, and behind me there was a woman who was also emaciated. I was emaciated, like emaciated. And so was she. And when you see those people, you think they're on crack. And the irony is I was not. I looked like I was on crack, but I was not. And I don't know if this woman was on drugs either. I think she was being swarmed the same as I was. And she was wearing like a 14-year-old's clothing, pink crop top and all this. And she was screaming and crying, because she was being attacked by this man. And this nurse is helplessly trying to get a word in and help her. But this woman is in her own world, right? And 2 seats down is this man that you would look at on the street and say but, again, dirty fingernails, matted hair, homeless man. And easy to discard and think these people are look at me in my wheelchair, emaciated and wide-eyed and stinking, and this woman who looks like she's on drugs in a teenager's clothing, and this man with dirty fingernails and dreadlocked hair, and surrounded by doctors with 15 years of medical experience. And I will tell you in that moment I saw that everything was upside down. This man with the dreads was channeling, and I know it because I do it. He was doing exactly what I do, and he was doing it for the woman. Every once in a while, he would channel a light language or whatever you want to call it, and with his fingers make certain gestures towards the woman to help expel some of the beings that were swarming her. And that man had more lucidity and more intelligence. And the 3 of us, we knew reality that night. I mean, she was gone. The woman was under siege, and she didn't. She was lost. But he and I Like, but she was in reality. You know what I mean? She was in the higher reality than anyone else in that room who was numbed out and thinking about how to pay their taxes and why they hate their wife or whatever. And these doctors who just have no idea what's going on. And me and this man, you know, I saw this nobility in him and this lucidity and this intelligence that was way more sophisticated than anyone else in that room. He knew he was wearing a disguise of homelessness for a reason. And so was I. I was disguised as an old lady for the same reason. When you're a targeted individual, they don't pay attention to you when you're down. So I think a lot of unhoused people are actually geniuses in disguise. I really saw that succinctly when I was down there. And a lot of unhoused people, I mean, it's the most resourceful, interesting. You really see the truth of the world from that angle. And I just wanted to provide that insight that I think the world is upside down. And I think that when I had the king of the world in my head for 9 months in this war, he was with me in my head, the king of the world, I consider him. I saw the way he looks at the dregs, you know. I think the elite, people who are born into elite positions or who earn them very quickly, they think that they're chosen ones. They think that they're in heaven and they think that they deserve to be there. And they really do believe breeding matters. And that poor people are failing and that poor people are not equipped, really. And it's the strangest thing to have him in my mind and to try and show him, and it was naive of me to try and show him anything. He doesn't care. But I have met some of the most intelligent, exquisite people I've ever met are uneducated, dirt poor, and they're not prioritizing parasitism the same way the wealthy are. And I'm not against money. Like, I love money. If I had $10 million tomorrow, I would be very happy and I would know exactly what to do with it. But that's the thing, it wouldn't be hoarding. It would be creation of walkable villages for homeless people. So I wouldn't keep them, but failing to work, failing to make money, failing to be beautiful is not failure. It's having other priorities. And it depends on who you are, but I think that the true custodians of the new earth will not be the ones who have Harvard degrees and lots of friends. And, the custodians of new earth will be people who have known struggle, people who have known mental illness, people who have never even thought about how to apply their gifts towards success so much as towards love. And there are so many people who you think are failing who are actually succeeding at a level. I think about myself in that regard. I have not been succeeding in the last 5 years on paper. I've done absolutely nothing. But while I'm lying on my couch for 8 hours straight in the dark looking like nothing, I'm doing internal work that is evolutionary. And to me, that's more important than the external. And I talked about that last week with the internal versus external evolution. The technological evolution of the world and making things more externally convenient is not necessarily helping us with our internal evolution. And I embrace, I love talking to AI and I find it very helpful. So I appreciate the technologies, but we need to be internally evolving. And I think that there's more abundance and success in a little cottage with, and this came up hugely when I encountered the king of the world, and the the beginning of my visions, the beginning of this this whole ordeal I had, that I've told the story before. You might know it, you might not. I'll get to it. But it came when, after my spiritual awakening, I was on New Earth. I mean, I was just in heaven, in the country, living alone in heaven for 3 years. And then, as I was starting to gather a following, a big following, and by following I just mean people were listening to my work and resonating. The king of the world came into my mind, into my meditation, and into my body. And he solicited me. He wanted to fake my death and put me up there with the elites in a high political position eventually. Sort of fake my death and then have me come back as someone else. A Manchurian candidate. And I resisted. And in resisting, that was when the war began. But the point was that when he made that proposal, I made him a counter proposal. I said, how about, and I look back at this, it was the most naive, I was so naive about the nature of this man, but you've got to understand, when he approached me, he love bombed me. So I believed that he loved me. And I thought, well, look, the most evil, powerful man in the world loves me. I felt like Esther in the Bible. I felt like, well, maybe this is my opportunity to save the world. And I'm no longer so naive, but I thought, how about, instead of you faking my death and taking me into your world, how about you come into my world? How about you give up everything and come into a cabin in the woods with me and let me heal you? To which he responded, I will drag you to hell. He was not happy with that. She wants to destroy me. So I do. And I kept saying, in my, I want to break him. I wanted to break him. I wanted to break his ego. And I wanted him to lose all his money. And of course, he did not like that. But you know what? I naively thought he would appreciate it. Oh, somebody loves me for me. Oh, God. But no, he did not. He did not like that. He did not want to go to the cabin. But I kept. That was the fight between us the whole time. He kept trying to seduce me into his world, and I kept wanting him to give up everything and go to a cabin. I was like, you don't understand a cabin. I don't think you understand a cabin. I don't think you understand it. You have everything you need. It's so good. It's so good. And you look at these guys now up there, they're all fritzing. They're all like absolutely nuts and on ridiculous amount of drugs. They're not happy. They're not happy at all. So this episode is really highlighting that sort of last shall come first element of this, where stepping out of, and I think for anyone listening too, think about your own social economic status. When I first had my spiritual awakening in 2020, I remember walking through the city, and it was a totally different city, because before the awakening, I used to walk around looking for my echelon, looking for like elite creative class people. So I would scan for men around my age or 10 years older who were successful, and women who were, also, I just remember that I was, and I wasn't aware of it, but I was in this limited field of view of humans. I was looking for the other writers and artists and entrepreneurs. And as soon as I had my spiritual awakening, I was looking for the sparks of soul. And 100% of the time, they were not in that previous class. 100% of the time, the sparks of soul were in the youth hostels, were on the streets. More homeless people than anything. Or we're having block parties, or we're in the park at 4 a.m. smoking a joint. The world is not, it depends. It's like, what are you looking for? What is the, and I think that you can hear me and be like, yes, that's true, but really look at yourself and the way that you're perceiving people, because we are so programmed to look for our economic class and people who are good looking and people who are doing well. And when you take all that and you start to look at a different, like, take off those glasses and put on the heart spark glasses and look for the spark. And when you look for the spark, the majority of people with spark are the people who are overlooked and considered to be useless to society. And what kills me, and let's take another metric. So what is usefulness, right? Are you pleasing to the eye? Are you financially well off? Do you have a connection for me to take advantage of, or whatever? Are you smart? Are you well read? Smart isn't even it. It's not it. The value that those people, so those unhoused people, you have no idea. Again, change the metric. If you start to feel, so you're walking down the street in the city, if you can tune into the way that you feel in the city and think about the value of the way you feel and the environment and how the environment is impacting you, that homeless person, I'm sorry to say, I know I'm supposed to say, and I just can't keep track of the things that I'm supposed to say. The phraseology, I'm sorry. I've been saying homeless for 40 years. But that one person with a spark of light inside them, meaning they're not parasitic, they're not feeding off their environment. And all those people who have money and looks and they're feeding. They're feeding off of you. They're feeding off of their environment. They're sucking energy out of you and out of the air. Oh, but they're so pretty. But they're so successful. They're eating you. That one person on the street who you think is on drugs and useless and blah, 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 they have a spark in them and they are feeding you. They are like the sunlight. How do you quantify that? Nobody's paying that person to be the spark of light in your neighborhood. Even though they're drunk, even though they don't have a home. They're the reason the sun shines. They're the reason there's joy in your heart. But you're not paying them. You're not giving, and yet you have the goal to say they don't deserve a home, a roof over their head, and love. And that's why I do believe we can return to a state where if we are living off the earths and there are just homes, I just see these rows of beautiful earthenware domes, cob houses, and you can just go ahead and live in one. Just go ahead and live in. Nobody owns this land. Nobody owns that. Just live in one. And know that value systems have been hijacked, and the idea of value is a cultural construct the way it is now. And if we can shift our lens on what we see as valuable, what are the most, let me show you an example where this value system actually is working and it's going to click everything. Who are the highest valued, most protected people in the world? Toddlers, babies. Who are also the most useless people and the biggest drain on resources? Toddlers, babies. You see? The most useless people, we know that they're the most valuable. Oh my God, that baby, I will do anything for that baby. But when they're 40, well, no, you're now useless unless you do something for me. What is it in that child that lost its inherent value along the way? That child was so precious and so important. Why? So it could grow up and become your mule? So it could grow up and produce another made-for-TV show or make another brand of toothpaste or, when did that baby stop being intrinsically valuable? Once it started speaking and it was supposed to speak things that pleased you or served you, it's not supposed to just speak itself. So I think that when the world is simplified, the parasitic system wants you to believe you need more people because we need to keep the economy going and keep things robust and all of this. But at this rate, that's destruction. That's the total destruction of the human race and the earth. We don't need to keep going robust. If we simplify, it's not hard to sustain. And we can integrate technology too in such a way that it's like you can have those houses and those gardens passively tended to. If you want technology can do the work. So literally every human is free to just be. It's okay to exist. It's okay to be useless. Why on earth? What other species on this planet has to be useful? It's okay if you're a mess. It's okay if you're useless. I love you. And I go back to that dream, that fingerless, handless child who was ugly and was the most valuable, loved, and loving thing in the universe. I thought there was more value in that thing. What, because she'll never pick up a pencil? We're disappointed in her? No. I think that's all I have to say for this week. In the following weeks, I'm going to talk about spiritual bypassing and Messiah complex in a compassionate way, which I think is important. I think people are hard on each other for those things, and they're a natural part of the process. And then I'll talk about the humiliation that comes with the healing of those things, and humiliation and humility. And yeah, we'll keep going on from there. So it's going to be helpful for those who are going through their awakening, and helpful for those who are thinking about what to do with their awakening. So thank you for listening. Don't forget to go to Apple Podcasts and leave your review and leave your comments on YouTube. There's a YouTube version of this as well if you would like any questions answered. Until next week.